me to call back. All right. So I've been asked to talk about, I'm sorry, I've got my notes on my second screen, so I may not be looking directly to you. I guess just listening is more important than watching me for now. I've been asked to talk about revenue management during COVID-19 specifically, and then how things are evolving. I want to keep this interactive. This is slightly different than what I thought it would be. There's a far larger audience right now, so I guess I would continue to speak and go through my presentation and then watch the chat for any questions. If there are any questions that I think I should address right away, I will do that. If not, I'll address that at the end of the session. And if any point in time, if Sandeep or anyone else needs to, stop me for anything, please feel free to do that because we'd rather keep it that way so that everyone's on the same page. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the basics of revenue management. Not that I want to lecture you on what that is, but that will form the platform for this presentation. And then we'll look at what has changed, what is changing, and what are some of the new things that are evolving. Again, this is based on what I'm seeing. Again, different regions, different places react differently to what is going on right now. So what I say may or may not be relevant in certain areas, so just keep that in mind. And my objective here is to simply give you a perspective of how things are evolving and how one should be reacting to situations like this in order to ensure that you have some kind of success versus doing nothing. So to begin with, we'll start by reviewing the simple process of revenue management 101, which is to be able to price at the right price point at the right time for the right customer. So that's the basic of revenue management. It's not about just finding a price point and leaving it there, but being able to sell that to the person who is looking at that particular point in time to come to your particular place. So you have to be able to target people based on their behaviors. So prior to COVID, we've had our traditional sources of reservations that come in that have evolved and continue to evolve, which has been through your sales, groups, people booking online, people booking through OTAs, through wholesalers, through airlines, etc. Then we've also had, I don't know how much of this is prevalent in India, and pardon me for my ignorance on that. We also have something called Hotel Tonight, which has evolved, and now Airbnb kind of bought them out as well. And Hotel Tonight was one of those companies that were formed where bookings were made in the day for the day at super low rates, similar to what opaque channels like Hotwire and Priceline used to do back in the day, but those kind of dwindled away, at least in New York City. They're still there, but Hotel Tonight kind of emerged pretty well for the ease of booking on the app. Then we have Airbnbs now that we use in hotels as well. 3 years back, if you said that, will you be partnering with Airbnb, I would have said, I don't think so. But today, we are also listed on Airbnb for guests who want to use hotel rooms versus going to a traditional Airbnb. So that's just added to our distribution channel. We also use social media today. We never use social media to sell rooms to people, but we are using that as well today. So these are a few ways in how things have evolved, in the last decade or so. And as we use traditional channels like the OTAs, the B2B channels, wherein we supply packaged rooms to the OTAs or to the wholesalers, and they themselves package that, create a bundle into a product, and sell it to their agencies to be able to send it to the end user as well. We have travel agencies who book through the GDS as well. We have our corporate partnerships that we leverage. We have our neighborhood community partnerships that we leverage. And most importantly, what we do here, at least in our company, is we use the web for all of our marketing. Back in the day when I first started off my career, I remember, we had brochures, etc., that we would go and give out or send over to people. There's nothing like that. All of our marketing is done purely through SEO, PPC, and our partnerships with our OTAs, etc., who market us online. And that's the only way we grow our presence. All of our marketing money is spent only on that, nothing on print or any other media. What we know, or should I say must know, is how people make their reservations when they come to stay. Where they come from, when do they book, the typical length of stay, their booking and staying behaviors, etc. All of this, like I mentioned before, varies from region to region, and it is very critical to understand. And I'm going to use New York City as an example, primarily so you can put that into perspective in your own regions. It doesn't matter what my pricing is at a current price point if it doesn't make a difference or it's not attractive to people who are coming from various regions. And what I mean by that is that one strategy cannot impact everyone at the same time. You must have different strategies for different markets deployed based on their booking behaviors, their holidays, your holidays, events happening in your area, etc. So, for example, a family from Australia will come to New York City for at least a 5-night let stay. They have a long flight as well. So when they come here, they're obviously not just thinking about this overnight saying, let's just fly to the US and come back. This is a holiday that is planned in advance. So their booking window is way further out versus a family who's coming from, say, Latin America to the US, which can have a much shorter booking window. So what we have to understand is that when do these Australia, and I'm just using Australia as a market and not going to more granular details as to when does Sydney book or when does Melbourne book, etc. But that's the point I'm trying to make. We have to understand if Australians typically, if 80% of their bookings are made 6 months out and their prime booking window, and I'm just using this as an example, is say September and October, that means before I enter September, I would have a strategy in place that I'm going to use using my PPC campaigns and my SEO campaigns and my partnerships with all my distribution partners to make sure that my presence in September and October in the Australian market on the web is 100% and is live, so that I can get the most interaction and most traction from the people, because that's when they're going to make the most searches for their trips to New York City. So that's the gist of what I was going to say, versus someone who's coming from, say, Brazil or flying domestically, based on their booking window and their booking patterns, that would vary. The most critical part here is that I would be pricing myself in such a way that the person who's coming from Australia would see a room rate, say, of $100 per night when they're booking in September and October for their trips, which would be assuming they have a 6-month booking window. So they say they're coming in March and April, typically to New York City. That's when bulk of them travel because of, say, holidays. And this is just an example I'm taking. So in September and October, for March and April, based on how March and April typically behave in New York City, not only from Australia, but how the domestic market also behaves, they're pretty strong months, April being a little more stronger. But I would price myself in such a way that I give the Australian market a slightly better rate versus someone who may be searching from Brazil or within the United States or even the UK, etc., for that particular same time period, only because I know that the Australians are going to stay at least for 5 nights while everyone else has a shorter length of stay. So that is how we typically do our revenue management. It doesn't mean that if I have $100 rate available for September 1st, assuming it's $100 flat every day, for 5 nights, the consumer from Australia is going to see the same price as the consumer from any other region. I'm not sure if this is how it's done, but this is how we typically target. You have to look at the currency exchange and see how that also impacts. So every time, for example, the UK, when their currency exchange started to drop down sometime last year, this is pre-COVID, we noticed that people were starting to come for shorter length of stays. And then they were more concerned because they've always been slightly stronger with their currency. But when that currency number dropped, he said, okay, if they were paying £100 per room, now it was costing them £110 for that same room to come and stay. And remember, they're not only coming for one night, they're coming for a few days. It's not only the room cost, it's travel, food and beverage that they have to spend in the city, eating out, shows. So everything adds up. So everything, say, if they were to spend £1,000 on a trip, today that same trip is going to cost them £1,500. So for most people, New York City is a bucket list. So they, save up to come here to spend all this money. So they have to take into account how much they're getting back in terms of return based on that currency value. So all of these factors are basics of what you should be looking at when you're doing revenue management. Understanding the behaviors of different regions, looking into factors of currency exchange, etc. There are other examples I can also give you. One is like the Chinese New Year in February, when you'll see the most travel from that market into United States. Typically, that market is big on the West Coast and the San Francisco, Hawaii area. That's where they go the most. New York being after that. Obviously, there's Orlando and Florida. But Chinese New Year in Feb is when you'll see the most of that market coming. So when you know that's happening, we definitely partner with our distribution channel partners to make sure that for that travel period into New York City, that particular market has very enticing rates that will allow us to get the most of the bookings. And Jan-Feb in New York City is a very low demand period. Everyone is fighting for anyone who lands into the city to bring them into the hotel. We typically run a 95% occupancy for the year on an average, with Jan and Feb being around, far lower just because there's not much demand during that period. But Feb for the Chinese market is a big time, so we have to make sure that we get all of the volume in terms of room nights from that market. So if we lose that market, that's going to be detrimental to your occupancy during January and February, because January and February is all an occupancy gain versus working on ADR. So this goes back to what we started in the beginning, which is, being able to price at the right price point at the right time to the right consumer. Next, we're going to move on to the topic, which is for this meeting, which is COVID revenue management, to keep it simple. Now that these sources of our traditional bookings that we just reviewed are not available, obviously right now as we speak, everyday things have been changing. I'm just going to go back to a few weeks back when there were no flights, there was no travel, and hotels are closing because there are no people who are traveling, and there's no one to stay, so there is nothing you can do. So at this point in time, what are you going to do? How are you going to get people to come and stay into your hotel? You cannot just rely on your traditional sources that you typically had, and you have to reinvent everything and think out of the box. Anything that you thought you would never do, you have to adapt and say that, I'm going to look at everything and try everything, because every one room today is people clap every new booking that comes in because it's so far-fetched. It's just impossible to get people to book. It's not about rate, whether I'm typically if I was priced at $300 and now I drop my rate to $100 doesn't mean I'm going to get 100 more bookings just because my price is so low. It's just that there is no demand because of the situation we are in. So pricing doesn't make a big difference right now. Right now, yes, it does make a difference, obviously, because some of us are fortunate to have jobs, some of us are not so fortunate, and so definitely the spending ability is far diminished right now. So yes, there is a pricing issue that we have to also look at, but just pricing is not going to solve anything because people are restricted in their movement. People aren't able to fly. People aren't able to drive in because of border restrictions, etc. So you have to look at now different ways of how you're going to get people into your hotel. I've been fortunate enough to say, to have a hotel of mine still running in New York City. The occupancies are super, super low, but we're still open. Thankfully, our ownership group has allowed us to remain open with the small occupancies that we have or we have had. That number is slightly improving, and I'll go into details as to how and why that has happened. So, but as and when this started, we started asking ourselves, who's going to be our new guests? Which are the new markets that we are going to have to find? What will pricing play a factor, like I just talked about? Prime cities like New York City have had very dynamic pricing compared to smaller markets where they've had more static pricing. And by that, I mean, I'm just saying a suburb town. I'm based out of Texas right now, so I work remotely, not because of COVID. It's been a few years now. So just to give everyone a perspective, I was in New York City all this while, but 2 years back I moved here and I work from home. I don't have to be in the hotel because my job in revenue management is not more about interaction, but we can work pretty much anywhere. I was fortunate to be given that opportunity to do so. So where I live is a very small town, and if I look at hotel rates here for any time period, it's typically $85 anytime I look for whatever period I look. Unless there is a few odd dates. So that's what I call static pricing. Unlike New York City, every day has a different price point, and that can change. Pre-COVID, New York City rates would change at least minimum 5 times a day. That's how dynamic it is. We've now whether we're going to maintain static pricing or go back to a dynamic model where every day was priced differently, yes, that has changed as well. We have to look at all of those things. We also have to keep in mind today that with all of the issues that we have, costs for operating a room are going up only because of the fact that we have to practice and execute a far more stringent and a little lengthier cleaning process across the entire hotel. So which means you have to buy a few more things to have that room clean and a few more checks and balances, which means if your cost per operating room was $100 before, and you could sell your room at least $120 today, that same cost of operating a room is $120, which means if you sell it anything at $120, you're not making any money. But again, you have to now look at the fact that people don't have the spending ability. So if you price yourself at 140 for the same time period when you could price yourself at 120, how is that going to get people into your door, right? So that is another thing to keep in mind. So where are we going to make those sacrifices? Obviously, there's been a lot of furloughs in terms of staff, which has helped cut down a lot of costs. So there are different combinations that we look at today to see how we can leverage our pricing in such a way that we have to take in this cost, while at the same time not be able to increase our pricing versus giving far more attractive rates to the consumer to be able to come in. Different locations have different audiences, like we talked about, based on the rules that have been given out by different states here in America, in terms of travel bans, restrictions, etc. All of those factors played again a role in determining what kind of strategy you're going to deploy. So I'm just going to look at New York City, which is neighbored around by a lot of drive-in traffic from New Jersey, Connecticut, Boston, and so on. Initially, there was a ban from people having to travel because they would be spreading COVID by coming and flowing in from different places, just like they've done in India. That has kind of eased down now, but those are the things that we had to consider. Who are the people who are going to come to stay? We had to identify who our new feeder markets were going to be. Yes, these feeder markets are closed, so we had to find new feeder markets that will help us build up our occupancy, at least in the short-term booking window. In the long-term booking window, we've started to see a trend where people are either moving their reservations to by a year or saying that, okay, instead of coming now in June, can you move our reservation to October, etc. So those kind of things is also what we're seeing, which is good. At least people are not canceling it 100%. So all of these things have started to happen, and so suddenly our occupancies are far low. In short, everything changed what we did before. We had to stop all of that and start on a clean slate again and say, okay, how are we going to get people into the door, and who are these people that we need to look at from a short-term booking window and a long-term booking window. The long-term booking window is not too much of a concern as much as is the short-term booking window to keep your hotel open. So that has been the crux of doing revenue management in today's COVID situation. Then we had the next thing, is that, okay, if we're going to do all of these things, who's going to do it? Right now, I'm all alone managing. Sorry, did someone have a question? No. Okay, so who's going to do it? Yeah. So I'm basically I'm responding to guest emails. I'm not doing phone calls. I'm responding to the entire reservations email, the communication for the hotel. I'm doing that. I'm making reservations, modifying reservations, reconciling reservations, processing credit cards, processing travel agency commissions, everything, because I'm the only person doing that. We have 6 executives who are running the hotel right now. That's it. So we've had to multitask, and that's why I'm super busy. But touch wood, I have a job. But I have to do all of this to keep my job. And I also have to do this because that's the reality of where we are in a hotel that's open with such far less occupancy. You cannot have the typical staffing that you have. Yes, we've got housekeeping staff, but again, just based on the occupancy levels that we're running. But other than that, what has changed is this, that I've got to do all of this work as well. So we have to determine, okay, if we start doing different strategies, we have to also plot out who's going to be doing what. So to ensure a strategy works, we have to ensure that the process works in such a way that we are able to manage the process with the amount of staff that we have. So you just cannot say that, okay, let's just go ahead and do this without looking at how that process is going to be managed. Is it going to be a lot of manual work? If it requires manual work, who's going to be doing that? Will it be able to get done in time so that the end consumer doesn't have to have an issue making that reservation, coming and staying with you and experiencing the hotel stay. So these are some of the factors that we also have to keep in mind. Just to give you an idea, 90% of our staff is not working. We're working with less than 10%, I would say 5%. So now this brings me to my next section of what has changed. And I'm just going to go through it in random, not going in a very structured manner, because I'm just throwing out points out here just to give you an understanding of what all has changed post-COVID. And again, talking specifically about what we're seeing in the New York City market. For example, the breakfast package, which used to typically book a lot, all of us have, most hotels have restaurants here, but unlike India, F&B is not a profit-making proposition in hotels here. It's just the way how they're structured because of union, etc., and costs of labor. But breakfast package was contributing about 10% to our total occupancy. Today it's zero. There is no F&B in New York City. So that particular channel has completely disappeared. Advanced purchase or non-refundable offers. Depending upon how you played this, and just using this because we had a pretty successful run, 40% of our total business was non-refundable. That was the contribution from the non-refundable segment in terms of advanced purchase rates, advanced purchase packages, length of stay offers that were all non-refundable. So pre-COVID, 40% of my business was pretty much non-refundable. That has disappeared completely. Why? It's obvious because if you have restrictions today, you can forget about anyone walking into your door. What has changed? We've become 200% flexible. You can call me today and say that I want a reservation for tomorrow. I book it. You can call me tomorrow and say that, hey, I can't make it. Can you move it to day after? Yes. You can call me and tell me, hey, I want to move it to next month. Absolutely. You want to call me and tell me I want to move it to next year? Absolutely. We don't see, at least in New York, any uptake in terms of occupancy based on what is going on right now, because anything can change. You never know, but just based on what is going on right now, we don't expect much to change in terms of occupancy. When I say that, there will be no 95% occupancy levels in at least through next year, the way we see it. Yes, it may start later on, things might change, but so what reservations, that we have right now, if people, all of them were to say that, hey, we'll all come next year, we'll be gladly doing that because that puts some occupancy on the books. Our booking pace for next year is definitely down because people, I'm sure, yes, a lot of people, like I mentioned earlier, are moving their reservations next year. People are willing to come next year. But again, the volume of what typically people book on a daily basis for next year is far down. So this has changed. That's how flexible we have become. Prior to COVID, if you call me to cancel your non-refundable reservation or to move a reservation to a future date, I would look at what the future date rates are. And then based on that, I would tell you either I can move it or the extra amount that you need to pay to secure that stay. Today, I can't do that. I'm not doing that. You can do that, but you risk losing that particular occupancy that you would have gotten from that particular guest. So all that has changed. Keeping in mind the advanced purchase rate, like I said, in markets like Florida, especially Key West, Florida started to open, Key West has opened up a bit. There, the non-refundable rates is actually growing. And you would ask why? Because they've opened up access to Key West. People are driving in, few hours to get there. Yes, while you can buy flexible rates online, occupancy levels are still not very high, but they're around the 50%, which is great because it was completely closed. They just opened up in June. Occupancy levels went back to 20-30%, but they're around averaging on 50%. You have 50% still of occupancy to pick up. So what are you going to do? At your current flexible rates, you're only able to get 50% occupancy into your hotel. So the remaining 50%, what they're doing, and you have to keep trying anything and everything right now. So they said, okay, let's see if we can do something by giving low rates. They don't want to because, again, there's a cost factor involved in today's operations. Let's see how much people will buy in. And so they tested it and noticed that people were ready to make advanced purchase reservations a week out for their stays. So they said, okay, this is starting to work. So this is a good example of how people are having to try anything and everything to see what's working right now and use that to start boosting up their occupancy levels. International contribution into New York City is at least over 50%. Some hotels will vary, but typically New York City, being a bucket list on most people's travel itinerary, has easily, if not more than 50 to 60%. Every hotel has at least, most hotels, I would say, have at least more than a 50% international contribution. With all of the restrictions in place, I can tell you that till today, since April, there's been zero contribution from that market, and we obviously know the reasons why. So that's a big impact. Restrictions continue. Europe just said that they will start to open up, have opened up the travel restrictions, but that's only within Europe. That doesn't mean people from Europe can come in here. UK is requiring a 14-day quarantine. So that obviously, how does that help a hotel? Because if a guest wants to come to the UK, you have to go into quarantine. So that doesn't help. So that's basically telling me that market is still gone. So all of these things are, now impacting us as to who are we going to bring in over here. There are no citywide events. There are no shows. Events through June have been canceled. We're already in June. By April, I think early May, they had already canceled out all events through the end of June. They have, in just a few days back, they announced that they're canceling the United Nations General Assembly. That's the big event that happens every year where all world leaders come to New York City for the debate on during the United Nations General Assembly, which is held in September. I'm not sure if it's a big deal, but it's a pretty big deal in New York City. For that 1 week in September when that happens, the hotels make about 30% more than a typical month. So for an average of a hotel made $5 million a month in revenue every month, and there's an average, it's around 5 to 6, depending on the size of a hotel. But I'm using that if you had 5 million revenues every month, that particular month in September when the UNGA happens, you make 30% more just because of that event happening. So that event just got canceled. It's a 10-day long event with peak being about 6 nights. That event just got canceled, which means September, which was the only hope that people had would bring in some kind of money and revenues to specific hotels, has been wiped out as well. So that event has changed, which means until that news broke out, forecasting was based on that September would have that event. We would see some uptake in occupancy. Based on that, strategies were laid out, pricing was laid out. All of that has now changed. But surprisingly, I noticed that not many hotels have reacted to that news while still pricing themselves super high for that particular peak period. Again, that brings me back to the point of what has changed. Actually, that hasn't changed. In New York City being so dynamic, you have to be keep an eye on every day as to what is happening and adjust your pricing and strategy accordingly. So one of the first things we did was, make sure that all of our pricing was adjusted down and our strategies changed for that particular period, because now it becomes just like another stay period in September with no event happening. We also have to look at room type hierarchies. If someone wanted to come and stay in a room for your base room at say $100 and wanted to stay in a room with 2 double beds, you would say typically charge, $50 higher. Today, you're dying for every room to be occupied. There is a slight cost factor for a room with 2 beds versus a room with 1 bed, at least here in the US. So we changed that, and we've gone back to almost flat pricing for any room type. If you wanted to stay in a suite, maybe you paid $100 more. Today I'm saying that, you know what, no one is buying a $100 room. Why not I price it at $100 or $105, $110? So we're testing. That has changed. Premium pricing for upgrades has gone away, completely gone away for this unforeseeable future. Because we need people to make reservations, even if they want to come next year. We don't want to price them too high and still get a guest to book a suite at a much more favorable rate versus denying them that. Because we've got about 100,000 rooms, slightly over 100,000 rooms in New York City, and as of now, with all the closures, it's about 60,000 that are operating. So all of these rooms need to get filled, and eventually, when things start to open up, we'll be over the 100,000 mark again. And you want to have secured reservations on the books. Whoever is able to drive occupancy now for the future will be the one who gains, assuming there is no rapid change in events that end up where people will, who hindsight will have to say, oh my gosh, we sold too cheap. But right now, I don't think that's the way you have to look at it, because if you can't get occupancy up, and it's all occupancy driven right now versus rate. We typically
Manish,
used to send.
in India, of course, most hotels have just started to open up. So I think potentially maybe in about a month's time, we'll have more hotels opening up. And of course, the airlines are up and running. So the conversation is that it's the business segment that's going to kick in first, and the leisure is going to get pushed out. So they're focusing attention on getting that segment back. Is that how you are seeing the strategy play out even in US, or do you think there's a difference in terms of between business and leisure?
I think it will be. I think it will be leisure, because with what is happening with the business segment is that yes, people want to fly, people want to get out, but with all of these restrictions put in place, cost of real estate is also something that companies have to now look at, because most companies have only seen losses, no revenues really. In order to balance their P&Ls and do a good job, getting away, restricting people from traveling would help them from costs. Selling off their office space or not having any office space if they can will help cover costs. So I think it'll be interesting to see. We haven't seen any change in business as of now. I still feel it will be the leisure market that will first react, in my opinion. First, I would say it will be the leisure market, because as people are given the green zone to start traveling, and those who have been fortunate enough to have jobs or have the ability to spend will be the first ones to travel. From a business perspective, I think companies that have to get back to traveling because that is their business core, because they have to do that. I guess they will do that, but I don't see that segment picking up faster versus the leisure segment. And I'm more of an independent hotel and more on the leisure segment, because that's the market that brings in most of a majority of my business. So that's
yeah,
my
I can
my
see. I think one of our alumni revenue management, I think he agrees with you. It'll be interesting to see, where the prospect comes from.
Yes. Sorry, my voice is it my voice not clear? Someone saying my voice is not clear. Is it me or Sandeep's?
No, I think I am not audible. So carry on. I think it's fine.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm hoping that y'all can hear everything that I'm saying. Another thing that has changed is, every month we would communicate with guests, sending them what we call monthly email offers for future stays. So we would target people who are in our database but did not have future reservations and send them offers. And these would be exclusive offers to them. That had to stop. Obviously, it doesn't make sense sending people this because they can't even travel. Or they don't even know when they can travel. People are moving reservations to September, October next year, but with the hope that they can hopefully travel by then. We've had a lot of people from March who moved through June, July, August, who are now saying, okay, move it from June, July, August to end of the year. And so sending these campaigns or executing these campaigns have come to a stop. That is another thing that has changed. What we're doing now is sending out communication to guests, informing them about what our cleaning protocols are, because we need to gain the trust of people to tell them that, hey, listen, you can come and stay at our hotel. This is what we follow, and with the intent is to make them feel safe. And I'll give you an example of myself. When I go, there's a grocery store close to my house. There's a grocery store which is especially further away. I've been going to the one that's further away because they've just been practicing more strict guidelines in that store versus the store that's closer to my house. I don't know the nitty-gritties, but I, as a consumer, just feel safe. So communication on cleanliness is what we're focusing right now on, sending that communication to people. So that has changed. We never did that before. It wasn't about that. That was last on the list. Another thing that has changed, obviously, it's no rocket science. Website user average. We used to have about 2,500 visitors every day on our website. Not 2,500 people converting, but 2,500 visits every day. That has now gone down to about 200 people a day. You have to always look at every bad situation and look at something positive in it, because otherwise you'll always, be in a negative state of mind. So at least there's 200 people who are still visiting the website versus 2,500 that used to typically visit it pre-COVID. So that number has gone down. So that obviously comes to the point that, hey, do you need to continue to spend your marketing dollars on PPC when you only have such a small audience? Yes, right now with things opening up, now it is going to change. Now we're going to ask our owners, okay, hey, can we get some money? Because as travel starts to open up, we should start to spend some money on our PPC campaigns, because if people are allowed to fly in and people are allowed to come and stay in hotels, people are allowed to stay. There's not been a lockdown like in India, but in New York City. But if people are allowed to travel, then based on which regions are allowed to travel, then we should start spending our marketing dollars on the web, on informing people that, hey, we're open. We've always been open, but we're open. Here are some offers, etc., etc. So obviously, just based on this data right now, which is a 90% drop in visitors, we've had to shut off all of our campaigns. So that has changed. And that's where most of our marketing money is spent, like I talked about earlier. We've also, created special offers that we are now communicating. Like I said, I'm doing all of that work. When I'm responding to guests who are writing to the hotel to either make reservations or modify or cancel reservations, we've created a special offer which they will, with rates that they will not see online. So they're obviously deeper discounts, and letting them know that, hey, okay, Mr. Manish, your reservation has been canceled. We're offering you a full penalty. Obviously, another thing that has changed is anyone who booked a non-refundable and cannot come now, we're refunding all of the money. And we're also saying that here's an exclusive link that we're giving you that you can book free cancellation for a future stay 365 days out. So we have rates always available more than 365 days out. Some channels only show you rates online for 365 days. Some show you more than that. So we typically have that available. So it's important that you always have rates available 365 days a year, and not just blanket pricing, again, strategic pricing. Obviously, just based on what's going on right now, our short-term pricing is more static versus dynamic and similar to next year, just based on what's going on right now. So that is something new that we're starting to do. Another thing that we are
Mr.
seeing.
Baliga, sorry to interrupt. We have a question from Mr. Munjal. His mic is not working actually. He's asking, is the mid-budget typically four-star segment better placed as against the luxury to ride the storm?
Yes. Sorry, yes, I see that question. Yes. The answer is yes. So I wouldn't even say it's the four-star segment. I would say it's the economy segment because at least different segments have different spending abilities right now. The economy class is having a tougher situation in keeping their jobs, etc. So, for them to travel will be a slightly, again, economy varies because it's very relative of how you want to define economy. But yes, to fairly say mid-budget would be the segment versus the luxury segment for sure to travel. Not that the luxury segment doesn't have the ability to spend, but the majority of the volume from a mid-budget market is far greater than the luxury segment. So just in terms of volume, I'm saying that the mid-budget is the segment that's better placed versus the luxury. Because a lot of luxury hotels are closing down because their operating costs are far much higher. Just because of I'll just use the example of Taj because I've worked in Taj. Many of us have worked in Taj and Taj Oberoi's. Back then it was only Taj Oberoi's for us, but the level of service was so high. There was a lot of staffing, etc. So today to operate those kind of things, at least in New York, is just highly impossible. A lot of luxury hotels in New York have closed down. So that's going to be a tough ride for them. I mean, all of you must have heard the news a couple of months back. Four Seasons shut off. And they don't see themselves. It wasn't even a furlough. The entire team, the entire company is done. Because for them to operate their business model doesn't seem feasible right now, which makes sense because their business model is very different and it's not something that just offers a room for you to come and stay with basic services. It's far more advanced than that. Does the crisis make revenue management talent even more valuable? Yes. On that point, I'll just say, so what also changed was seeing how bad the situation was and how things were evolving in March. What I did personally was, I communicated to my company by making myself available to help in any way because of the reduced staffing in the company that I started to see. Things are going bad. I can still tell you, I don't know. Anyone can lose their job any day. It's just that bad. It's just touch wood that some of us are fortunate enough. So I sent them that communication and told them that, these are some of the tasks that I'm doing right now. And if I need to help out other hotels, etc., I'm willing to help. Initially in March, there wasn't much work, but now it's pretty busy only because more team players have been, furloughed, etc. So I have a pretty busy day for the most part now, but it's just doing a lot of work of a lot of different people. That's why. So I offered that, and some weeks later, when I sent that communication, little did I realize it was going to happen to my team. My entire team was gone. So were the teams of many of my colleagues, while some of my colleagues and some of my seniors were also gone. So I outlined everything that I was doing, like I mentioned, and more importantly, what I did was I also outlined, apart from what I was doing, what I could do. So that gave them an idea of, okay, that's the way I thought of it. I said, everyone on the top is also scrambling because there are less people here. They're trying to save jobs, the company, the monies. what communication they have to have. We are a private company, so we have owners who've invested their money in our hotel. They have to keep talking to them, telling them whether we need to close down, keep it open. So everyone's super, super busy at every level. So I also outlined what I was doing, what I can also do. Because I felt that if I do that, it'll make it easier for them to say, okay, if we need help from here or there, Manish is available because this is what he said he's doing, and this is what he can also do that I typically may not be doing. But I've managed to get those skills based on is something which I will talk to you about, or which answers your question that does the crisis make revenue management talent even more valuable? It just depends on how valuable you make yourself. If you don't continually evolve in revenue management, today you have to know how technology works, how social media works. I'm not on Instagram, but you have to understand what Instagram does, what happens in Instagram, etc., just to be on top of the game. Because if you don't, you may not want to be part of social media, but if you don't know what happens in social media, you'll be left out of it. Because tomorrow, who knew that OTAs one day would be selling, would be required? OTAs, for the most part, support every hotel's contribution upwards of 40 to 50%. Some hotels rely on OTAs about 80% of their business. Who knew that would happen? When we were in Taj sold itself. We went to people and people came and stayed in Taj because Taj went to the people, and that was the communication through our own means. We didn't rely on an Expedia to sell Taj, etc. Today it's different. So if you're not in front of their Airbnb, who knew Airbnb would make an impact in certain markets? You have to understand how Airbnb is pricing. So when I price, I don't look at just pricing of hotels in my neighborhood or my kind of hotels. I also look at what Airbnb is pricing, not only in apartments but also in homes. Why would a family of 4 come to New York City, which they know is expensive, spend $1,000 less and stay in an Airbnb apartment versus coming and staying in my hotel and paying $1,000 more? How do I convince that person to come and stay with me? Can I price $1,000 less for a 4-night length of stay to get that guest to come and stay with me? All of these things have evolved. So how valuable you make yourself, if I can come up with strategies where I say that, hey, listen, while the market has lost X amount of room nights to Airbnb, say we have the New York City Marathon every year in November. Because of this, when Airbnb came, a lot of people, it's a lot of money to come for the New York City Marathon. Decided to stay in Airbnbs, which is far cheaper. So I said, okay, if I could give them data that the market lost X amount of dollars in rate because of having to lower prices and try and maintain occupancy because of losing out to Airbnb, impacting people who are coming for the marathon, here I was able to increase my occupancy or maintain the same rate by doing this X, Y, and Z. So I have something to document and data to prove. So I made myself valuable because I kept understanding different industries, how they're evolving, what they are doing, etc. So to your question, you only make yourself more valuable. I don't think revenue management talent, people will not be looking for revenue managers. There are always revenue managers available. But you have to first show how valuable you're going to be, especially now as hotels start to open up. There are going to be more people looking for jobs versus the number of jobs that are available. That's the situation today. So what is something you bring different to the table, which has always been the case, but it's going to be even greater now. So that's why I mentioned. That's why I said, I also told them what all I'm doing, because that is required. That I should be knowing what all I'm doing right now because my team is gone, and I should know my team's jobs and the tasks that they do, but also something that is outside of the scope of my job. And that's what I outlined. And so I've been helping out some other hotels, etc., in things the way that they feel that I'm capable of helping out, and done my bit. And so what I did differently was I adapted to what the situation was, and by being proactive. Workload obviously grew, but again, like I said, you have to find a positive in every situation. And I said that, you know what, this is giving me an opportunity to learn new markets. Like I talked about Key West, I'd never looked at Key West before. I looked at how typical their behaviors. I don't know much about it, but I've realized some new things about what happens in New York cannot be executed over there. So I learned all of these things. So today I have a little more skill to myself. I've added more skill to myself in my knowledge growth. So that's the way I look at it. What their systems are, who they depend more on in terms of distribution partners, etc. And most importantly, I got to learn all of it for free. I don't have to go to. I'm not saying you don't have to go to school, but all of you are students. But I'm saying I don't have to take an MBA program, so to say, to learn something more new here because it's on the job. Whoever, I'm not sure how many of you are working, but whatever your job teaches you is one. Whatever more you can learn from your job is another thing. It means, when you're earlier, I would say, man, why am I being given all this work? I don't want to do it. It's not part of my job. Don't do that. That's free learning. Look at it this way. If someone is giving it to you, yes, it's more hours or more headache, but it's free learning. Any education that comes free is just take it and learn. So that has changed, and that must change. What are views on CNE pricing? I don't know what CNE is. That is a question by Kunal Jain.
Kunal Jain, would you like to ask the question?
Yeah, he said, what are your views on CNE pricing? I don't know what is CNE.
CNE means conference and events.
Conference and events pricing. So you mean banqueting? Or are you saying for people who are coming to attend conferences and events, group pricing?
Yes, he means the same, sir. The conference pricing.
You mean conference pricing for rooms? It's slightly different. I just want to be making sure. I'm just trying to make sure I'm on the same page. So you're saying if there's a conference coming into New York City and they want, say, 100 rooms every day, are you asking about the pricing for those 100 rooms? What has that changed?
So he's asking about the banqueting pricing.
I'm not privy to that. No, I'll tell you what. Banqueting in New York City, my hotel doesn't. We have small banqueting, but it's not like India, at least. And when I say India, in the sense when back in the days like Taj and all, most hotels here do not, at least in New York City, cannot afford that because of the cost of labor. But also, there cannot be much discounting. We have a small banqueting facility at one of the hotels here in New York. No, the pricing cannot change because one, the cost of labor is what it is. And that is why I mentioned earlier on, F&B is not a profitable proposition here, unlike in India. In some places in the United States, I'm sure it is, but for the most part, it's not, just because of the cost of labor. If you have 100 people coming, it will cost me the same amount that it cost me pre-COVID. So you have to pay me that. Yes, can I, maybe if I made 10% profit on that, maybe I'll have to reduce it to 5. Yes, but I don't think it will be much of a difference because in the end, like I mentioned, F&B is, if you can keep it not profitable, if we can be, avoid it from seeing a loss, then you've done something well. So I don't think it's going to change that much. Whether it will change in areas, say in Florida, for example, or say Vegas. Vegas has some of the biggest conventions. So, but again, the hotel rooms are there. Some of the hotels have the spaces there to have big events, etc. So do some hotels in New York City. But again, cost of labor is one for sure. With social distancing, etc., costs will definitely go up. And I think you'll have someone coming up to speak pretty soon. I don't know, Sandeep, am I supposed to say that or no? Because I think he'll give a better aspect to that. But I don't think I'm the right person to give an opinion on this. Yeah, so sorry, Kunal. I think that's the best I can answer your question. To keep it simple, I don't think it's going to change much because just of the cost of labor. Yeah. So what are some of the new things that we've seen? Yeah.
Sorry, we have some questions lined up. You may carry on, and then later you may address those.
Okay. So what are some of the new things that we are now seeing? I don't know about this concept. It is there in India, but I talked about Hotel Tonight. You can go and check it out and see how it works. Obviously, they started off as in the day for the day, then they opened up for 3 days. Now they've become like a regular OTA. Another thing that we started to see is a day use. This concept of day use rooms, where people come and stay in your hotel not for a 24-hour period. I mean, check-in typically is around 3 o'clock, and you check out by noon. What we're starting to see is people looking for space to come in anytime between 8 a.m. to midnight and stay in your hotel. Typically, it's around 8 to 8. And they come in either for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, but between the time of 8 a.m. to, I'm using 8 p.m. Because that's typically how that model is working right now. This concept started about a few years ago. In New York City, it didn't catch much steam. You would see here or there things happening, but obviously you focus on things where most of your revenues are coming from. So this is not something we looked at. But today, there are two companies called Hotels by Day and dayuse.com that suddenly we started to use them. And I would say that on a daily basis, we have at least 2 or 3 rooms coming in from this segment on a daily basis. Now, how do you price these rooms? If the average price of the night is about $100, you don't charge $100 because this guest is typically, most of these guests stay for 4 hours or less. And they're either coming because, and we actually are come to that, so they stay 4 hours or less. So the cost of that room being turned around for another person who can come and stay for another 4 hours, and you can get, and if you price yourself accordingly, you can get a little more than what you typically get in a day. So at least a room is getting occupied versus going empty. So the way to look at this is if 50% of your rooms are going empty, but you have another 10% coming just through using rooms just for the day, and you're getting some additional revenue. There's free revenue that's coming that would have not come before. So it's typically priced $100 for a regular room where you stay the night. Here you would price yourself at you can start from anywhere you want, just depending upon your cost and where you want to price yourself, because you have to be mindful of what kind of people are coming in. These companies are now also making sure they check the kind of people they have, and ensure there's these are all legit guests and not with any other intentions to come and use the hotel room. So that's a new segment that we opened up to, and that goes back to the point that I was talking earlier, that you have to find new markets, who are your new guests, etc. right now, especially in the short-term booking window. So that's a segment that we are tapping. And again, you can go to their website, dayuse.com or hotelsbyday.com and check it out. Using that, what I did was also I created an offer on my own website and called it, day use or office room, and put that on there. And if you search to come for any day, it shows up in your search. I also ensured that there's a pop-up that comes up which advertises this. And why are we doing this? Because one, in New York City, people want to get away from their homes or are restricted to their home space. Apartments are super small, have to do some work, offices are closed, want to get out, are using hotels. We have, places like Regis, etc. in New York as well, but all these places are closed. So they're using hotels to just as a getaway or families. We haven't seen families. I've just seen couples or individuals taking a break or getting their apartments cleaned up or taking a break and wanting to use the hotel to come and stay. Those are the new people. Those are the new markets that we are utilizing to have our occupancy build up at the hotel. So that's something new that is happening. Obviously, all these segments were not something we looked at before or even focused on, and that's what we're doing. We also started something which most hotels are doing right now is called the first responder special rate, where you're offering super low rates, again depending upon your cost of occupied room, to all essential workers to come and stay. We're also partnering with the city government officials and hospitals, which we typically did not do too far of a greater extent, just based on where you were located. Some of our hotels are located close to hospitals or adjacent to hospitals, so bulk of their business relied on that hospital business. But now most hotels are also offering these rates. A bulk of my occupancy today is coming from these first responders booking directly on our website. We've also partnered with some of the hospitals who are partnering with the city to get essential workers in to help hospitals and to help the city. And obviously they need rooms to stay, so we've offered special rates. So a bulk of our, actually, touch wood, thanks to them, our occupancies are holding up. They're not super high, but they're at least not zero. So that's a new market again. Again, something we would have never thought of before. Essential workers, what else? We talked about multitasking. I'm just trying to highlight anything that's new that is happening, which we never did before here. We also, how are we going to have events in our meeting spaces? That is, well, all of those events that we were scheduled to have now through July, through August actually, have all been canceled. Weddings have been canceled. Majority of them have moved them to next year. Some of them have moved them to the end of the year, to Q4. But again, if nothing happens, they'll move them ahead to the following year. Some shows have been canceled completely. What else? We'll have to start looking at check-in times, checkout times again, just based on what guidelines the city gives us or the government gives us. Right now, checkout time was 12 o'clock, but we could flip a room within an hour to get the next guest in. Will that be allowed? We don't know, because on weekdays, typically our occupancy is 99%, which means that we are selling rooms, we're overbooking and getting rooms, because not everyone comes in at 3 p.m. to check in. We extended time to 4 p.m. Not everyone comes at 4 p.m. Bulk of the people will come around that time, but a lot of people come later. So we always rely on the fact that those who are checking out late, will give us the ability to sell that room and have it ready for someone who may be arriving even later. So we'll have to see if those guidelines change. So a typical 95% occupancy for this hotel might have to go back to 85% based on the new guidelines, which would mean less revenues coming back into the hotel because of the occupancy being low. So those are some of the new things that we have to look at. I talked about our PPC campaign and our marketing campaigns that we will be looking at. We're obviously trying out, some hotels use companies like Travelzoo, Groupon extensively. These distribution channels, partners help out certain hotels tremendously. Not in any of my hotels, but again, this is something we're talking to them to leverage to see what we can do. I don't think much is going to happen, but I'm not going to say no, because I have to open up all my gates right now to see what can come in. If I have to have 100 distribution channels, for 100 rooms every day, so be it, because otherwise I'm going to be stuck with far less, given the current situation. Obviously, focusing on drive-in markets, especially parking. Parking is very expensive in New York City, so we might even look at. We would always typically charge the guest for whatever the parking cost is. Not try to make money out of it, but now we might have to say, okay, we'll absorb the cost. So if a guest paid $200 for a room, which included parking typically, because it was say $150 plus $50 for parking, we might say, okay, give me $150 and you don't have to pay for parking, and we'll absorb that $50 because most parking sites are owned by outside people and not by the hotel, just because real estate is super expensive. So those are some of the things we'll have to look at. Definitely, drive-in traffic is going to be pretty critical to get some occupancies, because once they open up the tri-state, people will start to come into the city, and we'll have to lure them in because with attractive pricing. And I would think that that would be one of the things that we would have to look at internally as a company and as a hotel. We'll have to work with local businesses around the neighborhood, which we never did before, and to see if, when they have people coming in to stay, they might stay, where would they stay, etc. And now we'll lure them into staying with us by giving them far attractive pricing, which we have to right now. And touch wood, if hopefully all of this goes away, some of these segments will go away, and we get back to regular segments that we typically depended on prior to pre-COVID. Some hotels in Key West are offering a package. When I say a basket, I would say, which contains sanitizers, masks, etc. with any reservation you book. Maybe that is something we'll have to do. Yes, we have to follow strict guidelines where there are sanitizers available from the hotel, etc. But probably, like you have to have a TV in the room or AC in the room. Now, I think these might become the norm, and if that happens, these costs, because you want to give quality products to your guests to assure them that you are giving them quality products, and this might become a new feature in all hotels. And many hotels are already doing it, and I think it will be prudent for most hotels to start doing this to give that comfortable level, because I want that to happen, not that I'm going to use something else that is being given by another hotel to me because I carry my own. But these are ways for communicating to guests as to what is available or what will be provided in case they were to ask for it. There is a new product that we're trying to look at, which is, you don't know when you're going to come and stay, but you want to buy a gift voucher. So say, what we're saying is you buy this for $200, but it's worth $300. So basically, you want to buy a room tomorrow and it's costing you $300. You can present this and say that here's it, because you only paid $200, but it's worth $300 and you're getting $100 off. And you buy that today and you can use it for the future. The idea is behind this is right now, cash flow is very restricted at the hotel level. So this hopefully will generate some additional cash flows into the hotel right now for the future. We are partnering with one of our companies that typically does this, but the process is very manual right now because once the guest gets it and decides to use it, there's a lot of stuff that we have to go back and forth internally in the property management system to track it and make it seamless for the guest. One of the points I had brought up with the company was we have to work on technology, which they should right now, and it's a great idea where the guest can buy this online, and then when the guest decides to use it, the guest should be able to use the voucher online to make a reservation so that the calculation seamlessly happens without any issue. Because eventually, if you're going to make the guest work for something like this, no one's going to buy it. You have to make it easier for the customer. Or you take on the task of managing all the intricacies at your level so that the guest feels this is a seamless process. So that is something new that we're looking at. We obviously, as independent hotels, we don't award rewards to guests like points, etc., like the brands do. But we work with a company that offers when you book directly on our website for all our independent hotels. In my company, we partner with a company that typically buys in bulk from bus excursions, sightseeing tickets, Broadway shows, coffee shops, etc. Buy sparks in bulk, and you get kind of rewards where you either get coupons for free or you get a discount pricing when you book. And we're offering all of that. But now with most of the places closed, how does that entice the guest? You're giving me bus tickets. Oh, well, all the sightseeing is closed. So what am I going to do with that? So we're working with them to see if we can have them roll out gift cards with some kind of cost involved, and they're trying to figure out how they can do that because now they have to incur a cost on a gift card versus getting discounts that they got from vendors that they passed on to us. So that is something new that we're looking at. What we've done also is something, especially during COVID, if you all are working, I would highly recommend, keep everything documented of everything that you do. We're looking at something what we call a playbook, which many people use, of all the different areas that we are looking at and everything that we're doing. So all of the new things that we're doing, everything is documented as to when it was started, who started it, and if there are any updates to that, we document that. Because then as a practice, tomorrow someone else shares, hey, can you share what's going on in your city? I can just share that with people and say, okay, this is what's happening there. We can share it between different regions and see what's working, what we can try, what the feedback is, etc. So this is something new that we're having to do and keep. So as teams continue to evolve, because people are leaving, people are joining, new people are taking over assets because people are furloughed, etc. This brings them up to speed. So from to keep everything in going in tandem with the strategies that the hotel has planned, with all of the movement happening, it helps to keep everything in one place that everyone can refer to get a full update as to what the hotel is doing currently on any aspect of the business. We're also what I was talking about.
Mr. Baliga, we have some questions if you'd like to address.
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right.
Would you be putting it on the?
All right. So we have the first question from Ms. Muskan. It's on the chat box as well. You may refer to that, or
I can read it. I can read it. I can read it. Sorry, I didn't scroll down. Sorry. Okay. Muskan Dugal has a question. According to a recent survey, it says that even after 2 months after all the clear signal, only 16% tend to travel, that too for business purposes. So can we say that hospitality and aviation industries are the most affected ones? Yes. How long would it take for hospitality to cope up with it? Your guess is as good as mine. The worst industries hit is the hospitality industry, and that would be restaurants, hotels, aviation, cruise liners, everything. How long will it take? No idea. Your guess is my guess. I mean, no, I don't think anyone has an answer. Everyone has an opinion on this. So unfortunately, there's nothing. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. Yeah, next. And sorry, Muskan, the only reason I say that is just no one knows what is happening. There are only trends that you can draw, and everything that I mentioned of what things are evolving, what new we are doing. You have to continue to do that. You have to monitor your reservation activity to see what kind of people, which countries are starting to book. Obviously, watch the news every day to see who's opening up restrictions, where they're opening up restrictions, what are airlines talking about themselves. Look at the airline traffic data. I wish I could share, but I look at airline traffic data to see how much of movement there is. But for example, TSA just announced it had screened 400,000 people nationwide for the first time since March, but that is still below the levels of a year ago. That's only 15% of how many people traveled same time last year in May. So 400,000 people were screened, but that's only 15% of the total volume that traveled same time last year. So yes, there are people flying. Some companies are allowing them. Some people are going on holidays. I don't think most people are going on holidays. I think most people are flying because of that. New York City, for right now, most of the occupancies are up because of all of the essential workers that the city has called in to help. That's where a bulk of it is coming. A lot of hotels are closed otherwise. And the only ones open are because of that, and that is why they're open. So that answers that question. Germany, for example, extended travel warning. They've said that no one's going to travel until 31st, but EU can travel with it. Germany is a big feeder market for New York City. It's Latin America, especially Brazil. Brazil is so badly impacted, and it's going to get even worse. New York City is going to get even impacted, even more, because that's a big market for New York City and for the leisure market. So is Europe, and so is the UK, especially UK. Unless UK opens up and Brazil starts to, manage its COVID situation, bring those numbers down, and hopefully things ease up, New York City leisure market will become very domestic. Nashikeet, now that you have mentioned that luxury brands are currently closed, would these brands perish in the near future? Sorry, I guess all these questions came in earlier. I didn't see them. I think I did answer that question, telling you that the cost of operating luxury hotels is so high. I took the example of Four Seasons to tell you what happened. Would there be fresh brands introduced considering new normal? Absolutely. I would think so. There are brands that are already starting to doing that, working on that, and they have more financial ability to do that versus, small corporate companies like mine, I would think. I hope that answers your question. My general sense is that the service sector rebound, including hospitality, will come earlier than many other sectors. Yes, only because we're humans. We want to travel. We want to socialize. So I think when that does happen, it'll be a big party. Hopefully that's what people get their jobs back, but those who have, it will definitely happen. I can assure you that the day New York City, it started open, phase 1 is open. Not that it's great, but at least it's better than nothing open in the city. I don't know if you've seen pictures of New York. It's like Bombay being empty. But as hopefully when we get to phase 3, it'll be far more better. But I'm sure it'll be a big party when that happens. And people will travel because people want to travel. Travel is essential. It's a part of our genes. So yes, and it will be a very great period, I think, for satisfaction for most people. The things will be back to normal, not from a pricing point, but just that the activities are back to normal. As we all know that India is price sensitive market, absolutely. I can tell you that groups from India are so price sensitive. That's why they only go to specific hotels, and it's okay to lose them. Although most Indians have a lot of money that come here, I can tell you that. It's price sensitive market with new costs of cleaning getting added and intense drop in pricing continue to affect profitability? Yes, I think I did answer that question. In other markets too, absolutely. That'll translate to all markets. Absolutely. And again, as I'm going through your questions, just if you don't think I answered it, just keep adding them back and I'll answer them. Varun had a question. Guess having company contracts with hotel, yet they travel booking from an OTA and end up getting the final bill printed on the name of the company. This means they're traveling on cheaper rates for the same room offered by OTAs, and the hotel is losing on corporate revenue. That is the potential rate. How do we address that if that all exists in bundles? Yeah, so that's a topic of price parity. I personally don't believe in price parity. but it's just an opinion. Price parity is good. Right now, there is full price parity. I have to follow it. My opinion doesn't count. What we have is what we have. I have the same rate on Expedia that I have on all other OTAs or any other distribution channel. Yes, I have marketing offers that are not visible to the general public, but only through campaigns or hidden pages. The website may have 20 pages that you can see, but I can tell you there are 50 more pages that you don't see that I get you into just based on your behavior and your visit to the website and where there are offers, etc. Yes, OTAs sometimes on their own end also do this to give different pricing. There are hotels that I've seen where the price for their hotel will be cheaper on Expedia versus their own website. So I don't know that revenue management strategy, what that is. I've tried to dwell on it to understand, because every time there's something that I see, I question it, there could be some reason as to why this is going on. You don't want to just dismiss it and say, oh, this doesn't make sense. Yes, it doesn't make sense, but you think there could be something that is going on out there, and give it a little more thought. But I've never understood as to why you would want your hotel to be priced cheaper outside on an OTA or Expedia versus your own website. And there are several examples of that. You should be doing that. So, and yes, that means you're getting a cheaper rate outside, and that is taking away your corporate revenue, which is absolutely right. So if you work for a company that's doing that, then you should be telling them that, and you should be, careful in how you word that. But I would say that if I was asked that question, I'll say, okay, the corporate revenues are dwindling only because the OTAs have a better price point versus what we have to offer. So a smart traveler or a smart company will tell their people that, hey, listen, you make sure you just buy on OTAs and it is okay. Or the smart traveler will do that. So there's the only way to get around that is to ensure that what we call dynamic pricing versus static pricing. Companies still have static pricing contracts with hotels. So say I'm just using IBM as an example. IBM would say, okay, we want to contract next year with you in any of different seasons. So I'm just assuming the entire year, next year is one season. We want a contract rate of $200. We say, okay. But that means if I'm selling $100 anywhere online, I tell them that whatever I'm selling, you're going to get 15% off, which means that irrespective of all my promotions that are going on, whatever they see, they'll always get a 15% off deal that is built like that. So that in a dynamic way, so that when the booking engine does search it, it'll either show them $200 or it'll show them 15% less because the pricing on my bar was lower than $200. So that's the only way to get around it, and that's what you should do. So that way, they will never complain that or go through an OTA or anyone else to get a better rate. Yeah, Kunal, I see a question regarding banqueting pricing that I was asking you to clarify. Sorry, I thought you were going to speak, but I don't know much about banqueting pricing. I think to the extent that I answered your question is the best that I can answer. But I just think it'll be, at least in the US, cost of labor is expensive, cost of cooking food is expensive. It's just like if someone made 20% profit, they'll have to decide whether they want to make 10% profit or just have no event or close down banqueting. Which is some things which some hotels or companies are looking at, close down some of its sections. So for example, some of our hotels just don't have food and beverage at all. Most of food and beverage in most of our hotels are outsourced, unlike in India. At least I think so. Back when I worked at Taj, all restaurants, bars, etc., was owned and managed by the hotel. I haven't seen, I've rarely come across anyone whose hotel F&B is managed by them. Pretty much outsourced. How hotels can get an instant cash flow during this. I talked to you about some of the one of the ideas were the gift vouchers, and I think sort of that should answer your question about cash flow. A good question, because that is something that we are looking at, and that's just it's a good question you raised, because that's how you have to look at things and figure out how you're going to get cash flow, because traditional revenue management is not going to work it. And then to answer another question that was before about revenue management talent, questions like these or ideas like these is what is going to bring, give you that extra niche over the regular revenue management tool. If vaccine will come out on the month of August, then accordingly to you, what will be the first strategy? Now, vaccine can come out. Pricing is there. You have to keep watching trends. I watch the booking activity. I can tell you that in April and almost till the end of May, every day, like every morning, I would get the booking activity for the previous day of who all made reservations. If some of you use Opera, it's called the reservations entered on and buy report. It would be restricted to one page. Today, that page has gone to two. So that's telling me that there is booking activity happening. It's starting to improve because some things are opening up, etc., etc. And you can see what room types people are booking, for how far out they're booking, from where your bookings are coming from. So when that vaccine happens, we'll have to just see how booking activity starts to happen. Also, a key, again, this is just an opinion of how I do my pricing. Typically the traditional ways, people say, let's have a revenue meeting every week. What is our concept priced? I really don't look at my concept pricing to determine what my price point is. I look at my concept pricing just to get an idea of what people are priced. I base my pricing based on my booking activity. Just because my concept is priced at $500 and I'm priced at $300 doesn't mean I have to raise my price to get closer to them or to be equal to them. Because even at $300, I'm not seeing any bookings. So if my concept is priced at $500, why would that even make sense when I'm not even seeing the booking activity I want to see right now at $300? Are they priced at $500 because they don't know what they're doing? Or they've got so much of base business that we are unaware of, and they've only got 10% of the inventory that is available to sell, versus I've got 90% of my inventory available to sell. So I never agree with the fact when people say that your concept is priced X, why you priced lower, because you don't know what your concept is doing. Unless you have data to show that they are getting booking activity through transient reservations and you're not, then there is a problem with you, because you might need to check your interfaces or your distribution channels. Maybe your rates are not flowing out correctly. But typically, I would say that concept pricing is irrelevant. You price based on your booking activity, on how much you're booking, and if there is market demand, you'll see. If you're priced too cheap, you'll see dates that are starting to book very fast, and you have to keep a watch out on that and say, okay, am I priced too low, or am I priced at the right point, or I need to raise my price? So you have to be open. Revenue management is a 24-hour, 7 days a week job. I go on vacation, but it's my job to sell the hotel. It's not that I have a front desk job that I have to be on a shift. I'm responsible for the pricing. The GM asks me for my forecast. The VP of operations asks me forecast. Owners ask me about my forecasters for the outlook. So my job is very critical and important. Do you think campaigns like Pay What You Like will have an impact on domestic demand? Yeah, well, some years back, Vegas was in a situation where they started pricing based on what the temperature was for that particular day. If it was 50 degrees outside, the price that day was $50. So yeah, pay what you like. I don't know if it'll come to pay what you like, because there is a certain cost involved in operating a room. Vegas is different because they don't depend on room rate or rooms occupied. It's more on the revenues from ancillary services, especially gambling. Casinos, etc. Not gambling, casinos, I should say, is where they make most of their money. So their rooms, that's why are typically far cheaper. And you may think you're getting all these deals because they've already studied the market and know that 90% of the people that come and stay will end up spending X amount of money in the casinos or these places, and that is how we make their money. They don't make their budgets based on what their room revenues are going to be. If vaccine will come on the month of, sorry, we spoke about that, I think. Saurabh had a question. Do you think running SEO display ad campaigns, YouTube campaigns, very good? Cost money, and all these campaigns cost money, but it's good. I wish if brands had the money. Independence is a little tough, so we have to be very selective where we spend our money. I'll tell you, if given to me, I would spend all my money on the web, nowhere else. When I say web, it's YouTube, etc. A lot of money there. Should be running campaigns about safety, hygiene, which would help build customers, engagement, and long-term relationship or brand loyalty. The answer is yes, and I think I already addressed that prior. Sorry, got to the question a little late, but yes, that's as I said in our monthly communication with guests. We are now communicating more about our cleanliness and safety, hygiene to gain the trust from them. Brand trust, then revenue through communication is the focus right now. You have to do that, because if you cannot show people that, then they're not going to come. Especially if you're an independent hotel, right? And the reason I like the independent hotel versus a brand is you have to work more hard to convince, Saurabh asked that question. So how do I convince Saurabh, who's coming from India, to stay at a independent hotel while he can pay the same rate and stay at a Hilton? Because with Hilton, Marriott, you have kind of a brand awareness, you have some kind of assurance, safety net. Why should you come and stay at an independent hotel who you've never heard of? So when I spend money on my SEO and PPC campaigns, I have to also build that trust in you to tell you that, hey, come and stay with me. Either I lower you through price or I lower you through safety and hygiene measures and gain that trust. During this COVID situation, many hotels come up with the strategy of paying now and available benefits later. Yeah, I think I talked about that. Pay now was the gift vouchers that we're looking at. We've started it in some of our hotels as a test, not in New York City yet. Like I mentioned, it's a little quite manual work. I'm sure I shouldn't say it's a lot of manual work. It will be a lot of manual work, but if we have to do it, we should do it and try it, because that will also answer the question that was asked previously about cash flow. They can buy that now and avail services later, for sure. Yes, you should do that. You have to be able to be as flexible today as you can, because otherwise you're not going to have a hotel. You have to close it down. So to keep it open, right now, all the gates should be open, and every idea, including this, is absolutely right. But I can't answer the question if it was successful, because it's all in the early stages of being executed now. Right now, I haven't heard about any data that has said that they're successfully doing this to an extent where it's they're all saying cheers to that, because I think it also takes some time, because people have to start have the intent to travel, which is still not there. So maybe the model is good, but the intent to travel is not there because there are so many more restrictions, etc. is still in place. So people are still skeptical. People are, though, driving out, like where I live in Texas. Me and my family went last weekend to a beach town, and it wasn't a party beach. We have selectively selected it. It's, there were a few people. We had an Airbnb. That's it. We were socially distancing, etc. So people are going. There were lots of people on the beach. It wasn't a party scene, but people are doing that. So the intent of travel is there, but people are going to accessible places. That place is about a couple of hours drive only. So when that intent to travel becomes a little easier for people to make travels happen, then we might be able to see the success of that particular model, or all of the ideas we're all trying out. Yeah, Nihit, if I get your question right, I think the answer is to what I mentioned of having something of what I call the playbook. It's an ongoing file which documents everything that we started doing um, post-COVID. Not stopped doing what we started doing and documenting everything about it. I'm just saying we started gift vouchers online today. Start date was June 12th. When he started it, he's spoken to X, Y, and Z about it. Follow-up date is, I don't know, say June 20th, and then keep building on that. So tomorrow, if something like that happens, you have all your strategies on a document that you can refer to see what worked, what didn't work, how long it took to start working, etc., etc. Documentation is critical. I don't know if you all have access or do use Google Analytics. There are different. You don't have to use Google Analytics only. There's Omniture, there are other places like that for analytics to understand behavior. But you can document anything and everything there, which I do. So anytime I have to look back and say what happened on that particular day, I go back into that and I see what my notes were to see what I did differently or what I did that date or what happened that particular date. Business center. Most hotels, again, have a business center, not like we have it in. Again, I'm going to use an example of Taj, which is where I worked. I haven't worked in any company like Taj in the US. Taj is at a very different level, a luxury hotel. I don't work in the luxury segment at all. So business centers here are just as something to give a guest a computer, a printer, to print something. That's it. It's not for any other service. We don't focus on that too much. So I'm sorry, Dipesh, I don't think I can answer that question, how to utilize it, because in one of our hotels, you have to stand. Only two people can enter it and they have to stand. There's no chair. That's the business center. So it's not a facility that we pride on. Do you think lowering down the charges will make any difference?
I think.
Yeah, I think Kumar, Abik, your question, I think I may have answered. Lowering pricing down, or unless you joined in late.
It has.
Yeah, it's not going to make an
Yes, sir, I
impact
think
right
this
now.
question has been answered already.
Okay, perfect. I think, sorry, I digressed in so many places, but I hope I was able to give you some gist of what's happening in COVID and what are some of the things that we are seeing different. To keep it simple, just break out and just try out everything. Nothing is stupid. Test out everything. Most importantly, stay calm. You have to stay calm and stay calm and have faith and be patient. Things and find a way to adapt. Adapting is the only way to survive.
Mr. Baliga, thank you so much. I think we've taken more of your time.
No, that's fine. I was hoping I didn't. Well, thank you all for staying up so late. I'm sorry. I first thought I was going to be asked to wake up at 4 a.m, and I said, okay, I'll do that. But you were kind enough to let me do this at a decent hour for me. I'm sorry it's so late in the night for you guys.
No, I'm sure looking at the response and the questions that they definitely had too many questions to ask and you addressed them all. So thank you so much. It was definitely a very insightful session. Especially thank you for taking out time from your head.
No, that's fine. And then, you'll have my email. So if you all want to pass it on to everyone, feel free to do that. Just use my personal email, the Yahoo one. And then if any of y'all have any questions, I like to train, I like to teach. Hopefully one day when I retire, I can become a virtual teacher in your institute in revenue management. So that will be my goal in case something happens to me. Yeah, so I'll be happy to answer all your questions and guide you all through it. Just don't ask me for a job. I'll just teach you what I
Punjab
know, and I'll teach you.
All right,
Yeah,
sir.
and
Thank you so much. And we'll definitely pass on your email ID and to the students in case they have any further questions. They'll be in touch with you. And we definitely invite you whenever you are in India. Do visit the institute, and we'd love to have you with us in person.
absolutely, it'll be my pleasure. Thank you so much again. Thank you for staying up so late.
It is our pleasure, sir, completely. Thank you, Mr. Baliga. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a pleasure.
Should I just log out?
Yes, sir. You may just disconnect.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Sandeep.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.